The following tale of alien encounters is true, and by true, I mean false.
Hey, it's Janelle Waz, and welcome back to another episode of Treknalysis. Happy Halloween, everyone! Now, Star Trek has some spooky stories in its repertoire. If a Starfleet crew isn't suffering from sleep deprivation, then they're dealing with Beverly's... We'll just leave that one alone. I ranted about that one last year.
You have been using me, Nana, my entire family for centuries!
But sometimes it's sitting around telling ghost stories like the Voyager episode, The Haunting of Deck 12. The entire episode is basically just Neelix telling the Borg kids of Voyager a scary story to pass the time while the ship is in lockdown. And for those who need the additional context, Voyager at one point picked up a group of Borg kids who were separated from the collective, and Seven's been tutoring and mentoring them. They're on the same basic journey as her, but they're still kids. There's Icheb, the most prominent of the kids, who helps Seven out a lot. There's also Mizadi, and these two. But Neelix is about to babysit these kids who are having trouble sleeping with a tale to haunt their nightmares.
Some of those fairy tales can be frightening.
So gather round the glowing lamp, my Borg children, as Neelix delivers a tale so creepy, so crawly, that the only thing more horrifying is his face.
I didn't mean to scare you.
This is the Star Trek Voyager Season 6 episode, The Haunting of Deck 12, for a special Halloween edition of Treknalysis.
The children have overactive imaginations. I don't want to alarm them unnecessarily.
But before I go further, thanks for checking out my video. Make sure you like and subscribe for more of my Star Trek, video game, and other miscellaneous content. Keep those hailing frequencies open on the other social media sites, and a big thank you to my channel members for supporting the channel. If you'd like to buy me a cup of tea and support my work, consider joining up on my channel. Be great to have you aboard. Neelix is turning off the stove in an empty mess hall and closing up shop. And there was much rejoicing.
I guess I'm just a little jumpy, especially after what happened the last time.
There's something afoot on Voyager related to a certain event from several months ago, and the ship will need to be powered down for the next several hours. Which means that the previously assimilated youngsters, without their cool plasma discs they bought at the Discovery store, will wake up and won't be able to sleep until the power comes back on. So Seven enlists the help of Neelix to babysit. They also don't know what happened several months ago, and Seven doesn't want to alarm them.
What if they start asking questions? I can't just lie to them.
You have considerable childcare experience. I'm sure you'll manage.
More secrets and lies on Voyager? Will there be any memory wipes this time around?
Why must you turn my office into a house of lies?
But we have a nice little mystery set up. The lights are being shut off across the ship, the dock is deactivating himself, and we have constant reminders that this is totally Voyager's Halloween episode.
Looks like a vampire bat.
I will never understand the human need to find imagery in something as innocuous as a cloud.
Besides, it is clearly a bunny rabbit.
Nothing to be concerned about.
So right away, the kids have questions. Why is the power off? Are we in danger? Why are we in this nebula?
Why all the pearls? Why all the hair? Why anything?
And while Neelix is trying to fumble his way through an explanation without freaking the kids out, Icheb is totally calling bull.
Our shields provide sufficient protection against nebular discharge.
Well, hell, Icheb's ready to head down to Astrometrics to help Seven, except that's been shut off too. And Neelix is all, no, stay here, I've got toys and games.
And I thought that later we might even have a little sing-along.
Hey, it's either row, row, row your boat or no dice.
Merrily, merrily, merrily.
Now, the only reason that worked was because McCoy was heavily drinking. And something tells me Janeway wouldn't approve.
Reminding you that kids are not allowed to drink anything with alcohol in it.
Mizadi floats the idea that this must have something to do with Deck 12, which is off limits to everyone except senior officers with level 6 security clearance. Which clearly means it's haunted.
Who you gonna call? We're ready to believe you.
But this gives Neelix an opening to tell scary ghost stories around, well, it can't be a campfire because when someone tried that on the Enterprise, it didn't work out so well.
You don't offer us a bite or a sup, and when we build a fire to cook a little something, the whole place goes mad.
It was a dark and stormy night. Well, no, more like a dark and stormy nebula while collecting some deuterium to power the ship for another week. There's a whole lot of shaking going on as the nebula is deteriorating, and it's probably because of the emissions from the Bassard collectors.
The Bassard collectors don't produce Nadion emissions.
Ha! Icheb is me whenever Troy senses Ferengi thoughts early in TNG.
We Beta Zeds are uncomfortable with species like the Ferengi, whose minds we can't read.
Wait a minute!
In fact, Icheb spends the entire episode interrupting and correcting Neelix's story, which makes me suspect that Neelix should have hired a technical advisor while developing this story.
Well, the technical details don't matter.
Neelix, this is sci-fi. Of course they matter because you have fans who study fictional tech manuals! Heck, I even own one of those manuals. The primary defense arms carried by Starfleet crew members are two types of small phasers.
Stop interrupting.
Anyways, Janeway decides to get out of the nebula and back to safety. Oh yeah, this is fine. Voyager picked up a little buddy in the nebula, and the kids are trying to decide what species it was rather than let Neelix continue his story.
We can either debate comparative xenobiology, or I can continue with the story.
Xenobiology! Xenobiology! Strange malfunctions start happening on Voyager. Coffee's coming out of the replicator is spilling the coffee.
This is terrible.
Oh dear God, she's gonna Tuvix someone! Get this woman her coffee! Someone get this woman! But also, they seem to be going in circles, specifically back to the nebula.
I'm telling you, we rely too much on 24th century technology.
Get me a Sega CD and a copy of Tomcat Alley, and I'll pilot this ship over some very specific FMV videos. So the ship just jumped to warp, and now they don't know where the hell they are. Say, remember when Troy said this?
In another time and place, this could be funny.
Well, Deanna, this is another time and place, and it still isn't funny! The computer won't shut up, the turbolift is trying to kill Chakotay, the gel packs are fresh from the supermarket and keep cold foods cold. Seven is giving a lowly crewman some shit.
I know that wasn't my fault.
And the children are refusing to eat their snacks.
Snacks are irrelevant.
But like that one teenager in a horror flick that has to go off by herself, Seven is attacked by a big scary cloud and nearly dies until Chakotay and B'Elanna find her. Naturally, this is the best time for the lamp to turn off and Neelix to make the kids crap their pants with this face.
I didn't mean to scare you.
Voyager is dead in space. Hell, things are so bad that Harry is taking command of the mess hall. Nice try, Harry, but still no promotion.
I didn't notice a little box on my chair.
Harry orders Neelix to stay at his post in the mess hall while everyone's burning up on the bridge and Janeway starts trying to bargain with the computer.
I'll make you a deal, Voyager.
If you give me a cup of coffee, I'll undelete the wife.
Delete the wife.
Good lord, the face, not Tom's boyish good looks! Meanwhile, the stowaway has taken over Cargo Bay 2 and turned it into a micro-nebula. Totally normal. In fact, everything it's been doing has been to make the ship more hospitable to live in, which apparently includes deactivating the Doctor. But this thing didn't end up in his holo program? Oh no, bad luck Harry's wandering the corridors alone. Oh, please let the monster get him, please.
Stay away!
Calm yourself.
I was never more frightened in my life.
Now, the story takes a little break, which has been happening throughout the entire episode for the kids' reactions, to talk about fear. No, not the Michael McKean clown.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
While Icha believes fear distracts you from your goals, Neelix points out that healthy fear can keep you alert and out of unnecessary danger. Which isn't too far off from a video I did a while ago about confronting fear. I talked about Rocky IV in the video, because that movie was so 80s it was fantastic. But Apollo Creed was fearless to the point of being foolhardy, which ultimately got him killed in the ring by an opponent he should have damn well taken seriously. Rocky, on the other hand, had a healthy fear of what that same opponent was capable of, and took him seriously enough to train before the fight. Now, this section can feel like an after-school counseling session, but it works, and for all the crap I give Neelix, which to be fair is mostly done for comedic effect, he is pretty good with kids, which you see throughout the entire show. Mazzotti talks about how she was afraid when she was first disconnected from the collective, but Neelix points out that talking about your fears can help.
Of course, in my case, the only person I had to talk to was Commander Tuvok.
So the stowaway, now an active threat to everyone on board, Tuvok and Neelix head for the command station set up in engineering. Because nothing bad ever happens when Tuvok and Neelix are paired up. They're basically stuck in a horror movie at this point. They might as well be doomed. And of course, Neelix starts telling a horror story within another horror story about a stranded ship where the crew of 80 kept drawing lots to conserve air until they were rescued. The ship was found 80 years later. Which just makes the kids start asking questions about that horror story and not the main one.
I wonder what the crew of the Salvoxia did for food.
Probably don't think about that.
I'm taking you along as emergency rations.
You're joking.
Waste not. Not.
And then Tuvok and Neelix run into a familiar friend.
It's right here, Ray. It's looking at me.
So while they're trying to vent the stowaway, Janeway establishes contact with it through the computer.
Authorization code required.
Janeway Pi Alpha.
What the hell are you doing, Kathy? You're giving your command code to a stowaway who's trying to kill you? Holy crap, even Worf is embarrassed. And Odo's probably laughing his ass off in the Great Link. Well, the stowaway wants Janeway to go to Astrometrics to explain. Which sounds totally safe, but she's bringing 7 as backup, so maybe they'll have a chance?
It could be some kind of trap.
It's a trap!
Meanwhile, Neelix is having a normal one, reliving a happy memory. Surprise! So it turns out that the entity on board accidentally hitched a ride on Voyager while it was collecting deuterium in the nebula, and all the weird malfunctions, not to mention the attempts on everyone's lives, was its way of trying to communicate that it would like to go home. Which is so Voyager.
Oh, why didn't you just say so in the first place?
But now it wants Janeway to go to the bridge alone.
This life form isn't trying to hurt us.
You sure about that, Kathy?
A few moments later.
Yeah, Voyager accidentally destroyed the nebula, and now the entity is basically homeless. And an aggressive squatter.
The life form wanted Voyager for itself, and it was going to kill anyone who remained on board.
Meanwhile, called it! The entity isn't also going to let Janeway leave, but Janeway would rather die than be its prisoner.
I won't be your prisoner. You'll have to kill me.
Acknowledged.
It's the final showdown. Janeway versus mysterious entity of the week. Either Janeway gets control of her ship, or they both die. Also, the kids are fully invested in this story at this point. And then Janeway finally breathes a sigh of relief. Or just breathes. With the crew returning to Voyager, they created a nice little nebulous home for the entity on Deck 12 for it to live in. Except there's no coffee in that nebula. And that's why Deck 12 is off limits. But with a final rumble, the lights are back on. Neelix says that the rumble was probably their friend going to a new home. Either that or angels are bowling. And the kids can finally go back to sleep. If they can.
What if I told you I made up the whole thing?
Oh, well, then I guess this last hour just meant nothing to us. Well, to be fair, Voyager uses the reset button an awful lot, which is kind of the same thing. This is more on par for the course than anything else.
I knew the story wasn't true. The moment you said the Bussard collectors produced Nadion emissions.
Personally, I started questioning the story when Neelix seemingly knew everything that was happening on the ship. So Neelix goes to update Mom and Dad that the kids are fine and asleep.
I told them a story to pass the time.
Let me guess, Mother Goose.
Everything seems to be back to normal, and Voyager can go on its merry way.
I hope it lives happily ever after.
Wait, it was real?
And it's real!
And that was The Haunting of Deck 12. It works as a fun little monster movie within Voyager, and what's interesting is that you hardly ever see the monster. The episode builds the suspense as more and more things go wrong with Voyager, and most of the frights come from either crew jump scares or the effects the entity has on the ship. Strange gases coming out of vents, electrical bursts, turbolift doors. You've never been so scared to see a turbolift in your life. Even finding out what's causing the malfunctions doesn't make things better. The danger only increases to the point where it's singling out one person, Captain Janeway. It's executed pretty decently and without having to resort to grisly visuals, which, as someone who doesn't normally like horror, I appreciate that. The episode takes advantage of the fear of the unknown, and I like when stories do that. But of course, the very nature of the episode, Neelix telling the kids a story, ruins some of the suspense because we know it's all gonna end up okay. The ship is still here at the start of the episode, the main cast is still around, the ship is in good enough shape to take on 4 new passengers. But at the same time, the kids' reactions make the episode. Icheb calls out the technical inconsistencies, Mizadi gets real for a few minutes, and those other 2 get increasingly scared. It's almost like you're hanging around the lamp with them, listening to the story. Now, I think the flaw of the story itself is Neelix as the omniscient narrator, just because how would he know everything happening on the ship at the time? I only saw the episode once years ago and didn't remember much of it, but I was guessing this time around that he made the whole thing up. Sure, he could have pieced together the testimonies of the other crew, but I still question the story's validity. I do have to wonder how much of the story was embellished and how much of it actually happened, but I think at the end of the day, there really was an entity on Deck 12 which Voyager was transporting to a new home after inadvertently destroying its home. This episode is both good Halloween viewing and decent Star Trek. It has its horror elements, but it also touches on some very human themes, and that makes it alright in my book. Or at the very least, better than Sub Rosa.
Just dinna light that candle.
So what did you think of The Haunting of Deck 12? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you enjoy the literary style used in this episode of Neelix telling a story to the kids? How does it work as a horror story for you? And what are some of your favorite spooky Star Trek episodes? Please leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Treknalysis. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends. Until next time.
Calm yourself, Mr. Neelix.
And that's how much college will cost for Icheb.
No, no, no!